Welcome back to my build vlog. Here I'm continuing to work on the vertical stabilizer. The biggest challenge with the vertical stabilizer is getting the nose ribs in place. Here I'm going back and forth and trying to fit the ribs in. When the ribs are formed, the flanges have a greater radius than the actual curvature of the nose rib, and when they get bent up, there's a forward edge that protrudes ahead of where there should be any material, so you have to shave some off. You don't want to take too much off, but you need to get a decent amount freed up before it will actually fit into place without leaving a dent in the skin. So once I've sized those up, I can now get everything into place where the nose ribs are in, the forward spar, the upper and lower ribs, and the rear spar, and get everything clecoed, and we'll move on to match drilling. For some reason, I didn't remove any of the blue vinyl from the outer skin. The inner skin is removed. Now I'm just going through and using the number 40 reamer to match all of the holes common to the skin and the ribs and spars. Vans is now putting out kits that are final sized, and for the most part the reamer just slides right through, but every once in a while there'll be a hole where for some reason maybe there's a burr left. The reamer takes off the slightest amount of material. So for now I'm still planning on following the instructions as written, where the structure is clecoed together and match drilled. Little helpers are in the hangar tonight. By helpers, I mean great distractions. Once everything's match drilled, all the clecos come back out. Everything is torn back down to pieces. After match drilling comes the most joyous process of deburring every single hole. On the flanges of the spar, the deburring tool doesn't fit, so I had to take the bit out and using fingertips clean out the inside of the flanges. Not exactly the most enjoyable process. There's more time spent on preparing materials than there is on actually building the airplane. Oh, finally the vinyl is coming off of the outer portion of the skin. It's a much simpler process watching it in 30 times speed. And just like everything else, the skin has to get deburred. I started off with just using the maroon 3M pad and scuffing up the entire line. And then I moved to trying just a very light twist with the de-bur tool, and I ended up liking the results of that better. Definitely making sure not wanting to leave a chamfer on the hole, as there's not a lot of material to begin with in the skin. But just a little bit of pressure with that deburring tool, and then just a light scrub with the maroon 3M pad, I felt like it left the best result. Here I'm paying attention to the particular holes in the bottom of the vertical stabilizer where the fairing will be attached. There are specific holes that don't get dimpled or riveted because they're going to receive screws to attach the fairing once the airplane's assembled. So I'm using a combination of Sharpie marks and blocking out the holes with painter's tape. Alright, it's time to bust out the C-arm. I opted for the traditional C-arm and not the pneumatic lever driven, as noise is the biggest complaint with using the C-arm, and I'm out in a shop. I'm not bothering anybody. The biggest hassle is trying to keep the kids keeping their headphones on while I was using it. and reaching the forwardmost holes on the middle nose rib, I ended up using the pull rivet dimple dies for the forward 2 holes. Everything else could be reached with either the C-arm or the pneumatic squeezer. And here I am. I have a hand rivet puller, and I also have a pneumatic. Clearly don't want to use the pneumatic puller for the dimple set, so using the hand squeezer, and it takes a little getting used to the feel of how much pressure you need to place on it. But ultimately it created a complete dimple. Now I'm going through and getting all the ribs dimpled. The spar has a combination of dimples and countersinks. Where the spar caps are behind the spar in relationship to the skin, the spar gets countersunk because the material will get thinned out just to the point where if there was nothing behind it, it'd be too thin to have the structural integrity needed. But with the spar cap in place and the spar sandwiched in between the skin and the cap, it provides the material needed for the rivet to set and have the proper squeeze. So here I am countersinking those holes that are in common with the spar cap. The upper portion of the spar will only get dimpled. Everything now has been match drilled, countersunk or dimpled, de-burred, and ready for primer. I'm using pre-coat as my surface preparation and AKZO Noble primer. So I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to prime all the parts, and in the next episode I'm going to start assembling a vertical stabilizer. Catch you on the next one.